What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the live stream. Good Lord, I got too much stuff up on this damn thing. What is up? What a day it's been. This is going to be a long one, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be on here for a hot minute. We got a lot to talk about here. Honestly, we got a lot to talk about here. Oh, no, we are actually going to watch. If anybody in this live stream has not watched the press conference, I am going to show the press conference for y'all. All right. I am definitely going to show the press conference today. Definitely, listen, we can be listen, I have nothing. I will say this. I have nothing against the guy, Matt Rhule. I want to make sure that this is clear about me, Carolina Panthers, Matt Rhule. I have nothing against the man. Okay. The guy himself. I have nothing against Matt Rhule by any means as a person, right? But when it comes to the NFL and these college coaches, in college football, there is a total difference. Nick Saban tried it, didn't work. Steve Spurrier tried it, didn't work. Lots of other coaches have tried it. It just doesn't work out. Okay. David Tepper, I don't know why it took so long. I have watched some of the press conference, only watched a little bit. But I told y'all from the beginning of this season, I said if Matt Rhule if he's not above 500 by week 5 or week 6, he was going to get fired. And look what happened. And we all knew that this was coming. How long it was going to take, who knows? How long it was it just took way too long though. For what it's worth. It just took way too long. And now that Carolina's basically going to have to clean house. In all seriousness, we are going to have to clean house now. I'll get into more of that. We'll talk about the game. But I do want to kind of start off this stream with the press conference. If you haven't already watched it, we're going to watch it. And then, we'll kind of we'll go over some things that he says. All right. Let's get through these comments. Make sure you pound that like button, guys, as you're coming in here. I'm going to put the press conference up. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and share a trim tab. Make sure y'all can see that. All right. So we're going to listen to the press conference. I kind of want to put this in. Is that better for y'all? Or should I put full screen? Is that better? Okay, perfect. So we'll put it in full screen. So we're going to go over the press we're going to listen to the press conference. If you haven't heard it already, and I'll turn off the music too, so we can hear all of it. Let me turn this off. So we're definitely going to make sure the volume's up on it. We're going to listen to it. Make sure the volume is up all the way up on my computer. And then we're just going to go over some things. Give me a minute here. Got the press up. Everything's good. Make no mistake about it. These are definitely the in-between days. Yeah, it is. So just be prepared for that, guys. I saved Charlotte. The only thing isn't winning is the Panthers. I might miss Rhule a little bit. Well, one man. All right, so let's listen to the press conference.
Just first, a statement. These days are never easy. It's very human times in a very public way. Had a conversation with the coach this morning. It was short, cordial. He's a gentleman, a true gentleman. I then had a conversation with Steve Wilkes and named him interim coach and had that conversation. And with that, I'll take questions. We'll start here.
Can y'all hear it? Can y'all hear the press conference? Let me know if you can hear it. Just make sure y'all can hear it.
This decision today, as opposed to at any point previously, like this all season. Look, there's are you struggling with numerous reasons why you make a decision like that. Ultimately, I felt this was the time. Numerous reasons why you make a decision, Mike.
Okay, you can hear it.
So, Dave, Matt has expressed at various times as you have tried to find a quarterback.
You better give me some good answers. That's all I got to say. You better say some good stuff here, Tepper.
Search is still ongoing. How much of that?
I don't want to hear anything about this. He smells like me, looks like me.
Look,
bullshit.
ultimately, I'm the head of the organization, and ultimately, I always bear responsibility. I'm not the person that makes those decisions. I'm brought into those decisions. Listen, we will find, and we may have that person right now, but I believe we will have that person eventually.
Going forward, to find the next head coach, assuming that you'll lead that, will Scott be part of that? Will Drum be part of that? What will that process look like?
Listen, we're far away from that right now. Right now, we have a lot of season left. I'd rather talk about the season left. Right now, Steve Wilkes is the coach.
So, Mr. Tepper, speaking of this season, what does the rest of this season look like as an evaluation period for Steve? And do you see him as a candidate potentially for the big job next season?
There's a lot of season left, and we'll see how the season goes. Ultimately, he's in a position to be in consideration for that position. I had a talk with Steve. No promises were made, and but obviously, if he does an incredible job, he's have to be in consideration for that.
Dave, how much did what happened yesterday matter to you in terms of your timing, the fire Matt Rhule chance, the fact that there were so many 49ers fans here, and the 22-point loss?
Listen, as I said, there's numerous reasons why you make a decision. There might have been a little bit of loss of intensity on the field yesterday. I would say that's probably evident versus the first 4 games. Listen, I have great respect for the fans, and I do hear the fans. But ultimately, that can't be a reason why you make a change like this. And again, there's numerous reasons why you make a change like this.
Dave, back in, I think, end of April, you said this could take 5, maybe 6 years to get turned around. What's happened in between there to make you feel like that Matt couldn't lead it out turning around?
Look, again, a lot of time has, passed here. We have the record we have. And, again, there's different reasons that go into that. I think that there has been progress of some sort, but look, we're just not getting over the hump. And we got to get over the hump.
What's the hump? That's what I want to know to you, David Tepper. What's the hump?
Look, it's good to have somebody internally that's familiar with the team and, with the people in the building, so to speak. Steve is a leader of men. He has experience as a head coach. And I thought he's the best candidate, in the building for that role.
We're going to Phil.
What's your message to fans? You mentioned the fans. Do you have a message for them who may feel like this thing maybe wasn't moving in the right direction?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do you have a message to the fans who maybe felt that the franchise wasn't moving in the right direction after this move?
Look, football is a funny business. Things take time, and as a former fan, I don't want to hear that. I want to answer. I want to win today, and I don't care about anything else. And I understand that, and I want to win too. But I do think we have made some progress, and we will make future progress. I think it's pretty reported out there that defense has some respect for the defense. It's probably a top half of the league defense or better. I think the offensive line is probably the best offensive line we've had since I've been here. Can get better, but I think that's probably fair to say. So I do think those are kind of foundation pieces. I think we have a lot further to go, and I think eventually we'll get over the hump.
What insight do you have on the firing of Phil Snow?
Tomorrow, I think you'll have a chance to talk to Steve Wilkes. I did talk to Steve before, that. He told me, he was going to think about these, a few different positions, and that's all just been reported out there. You should talk to Steve Wilkes tomorrow.
Given the state of the roster and the upcoming strength of schedule, what are your realistic expectations when it comes to Steve Wilkes? You expect him to get your team over the hump with this remaining season left?
Look, I think we always have an expectation to win and trying to find a way to win. And, that's never changing. Steve is familiar with the team. I have confidence in him, and we'll see.
Hey, the people at Discovery Channel came to me and asked me to do the impossible.
Dave, how hard of a decision was this for you? I mean, you've been in Pittsburgh, you've seen that they've had a lot of patience with head coach.
All right, I want to pause it there for a second. This dude, I feel like, is just lying out of his ass right now. Like, I don't even feel like David Tepper is really need. This is not the shit he's saying is just lying out of his ass. Like, this dude literally said that, like, you can obviously tell David Tepper was close with Matt Rhule. You can tell that he said that he looks like him, smells like him, feels like him, whatever the hell he said. But it's a bold ass face lie when he's sitting there saying that he doesn't that you have to listen to your fans. Like, as an organization, you have to listen to them to a certain extent, right? Like, I'm not saying you got to fully listen to them and let them draft your team and do your free agency and obviously cap space and all that. Like, that's not how he's not hopping on YouTube and listening to me or PNP or Big Cat or anybody else, and saying, oh, well, this guy knows what he's talking about, so we're going to do that, I think this has been a, I don't know, feels like it's been a bunch of BS to me so far listening to this. Let's finish it out though, or we'll continue here.
Things you preach was, being patient, taking time to do it. How hard did that make this decision, being that he was only here a little over 2 years?
I think, it's a funny thing, that thing called patience. If you ask the average fan out there, they think I was ridiculously patient on both these situations here. I think you have to show the right amount of patience to see the progress that's made. Are we winning more? Are we progressing in different ways? And I think in all those situations you just spoke of, there has been that. And I think, unfortunately, we haven't, like I said, got over that hump to win. And I think that's what it is.
Dave, can you address the vast amount of empty seats that have been there the last few weeks, maybe half full? And just to clarify, are you saying it was Steve Wilkes that decided to fire Phil Snow and not you guys?
Just listen, it's an interesting thing you say that, but because we have 63,000 people butts in seats. Now, unfortunately, there was too many red butts in seats this week. That was not, again, the reason, a reason for that. As I said, we just can't get over the hump.
And was it Wilkes that decided to let Phil Snow go? Was it Wilkes that decided to let Phil Snow go, or was that you and Federer? How did that come about?
That was basically usually a head coach gets to choose his coaching staff. Okay, and I was informed that he might want to make these changes, and I wanted to give him some time to think about it. He thought about it, and he did it. So we should talk to him tomorrow again.
Majority of the GM's job is done during the off season. What direction do you want Scott to take as you focus on the rest of this season?
Look, we have to be very careful about how we use our limited resources. We have 200 plus million salary cap. We have how many draft choices we have. So we, including me, to the extent I'm involved at all, have to be more diligent in how we do that.
That's it. Given where the team is right now, is there a thought process to maybe get ahead of next year and make some moves?
Listen, we're always thinking about what moves should be made, and at this point in time, it's a little premature to answer that question.
I think we talked to you in the offseason. You had the full support of Matt in the offseason, understandably at that time. What did you see in him at that point that did not happen in the regular season that you thought that he could get the job done to give him another year?
I thought flexibility in the staff and trying to upgrade the coaching staff at that point in time and having that sort of flexibility to see how that all worked out. Again, I think there's been some improvements. There are always some improvements, but not enough. And we're obviously not getting over the hump. So, that's the bottom line.
And then, John, real quick, he had a final say, I believe, in quite a bit of the roster. Would that philosophy for you change going forward? Will you not give that to the head coach, or is that something you believe in?
I think a balance is probably more appropriate between the head coach and the GM. A better balance.
Hi. You've mentioned the phrase "getting over the hump" several times. What does that look like to you?
And it's winning. Winning.
Can you quantify that as far as the number of wins? Is it a Super Bowl appearance? Is it going to the playoffs?
Winning more this year than you did last year. Have the appearance of winning more than you did last year. Looking like you're going to win more than you did last year. By that definition, I don't think we're over the hump. We started off 1-4 this year. We had 5 wins the last 2 seasons. We had a different lack of success at other seasons. So we have to somehow change that culture, see how we can change that culture and try to win. And whatever that takes, we're going to try to find that.
2 questions. One, is your plan currently to move forward with Scott as GM into 2023? And 2, do you think there's something advantageous about having a GM and a head coach both come in at the same time together?
It's a little premature to ask those questions. Scott is our GM. There's no thought of mine right now. Right now, my focus is Wilkes and helping him have success in the new role.
Dave, you hired Matt Rhule about 33 months ago. What have you learned about building a winning, sustainable product in that time period from then to now?
Listen, I think that as an organization, we have to maintain patience in roster building and different positions. And just a little bit more patience would be good, and remembering all the time that we are in a limited resource business. We have the same amount of money to spend as the next team. Nobody has more, nobody has less. We have the same amount of draft picks as the next team. Nobody has more, nobody has less. We have to make sure we use that as best we can, and really, really consider that and strategically think about it.
Joe, how do you kind of reconcile the patience message, though, when you see other teams around the league having success earlier with newish coaches to get into the playoffs?
It's funny. I get asked, you just asked that question of being too patient, and somebody said you're not patient enough. And I said, it's like you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. And that's kind of, where I am, you have to show enough patience to see how things work out. And then ultimately, are you winning enough? I mean, that's the bottom line. Here's the bottom line. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. Fans care about you winning, and quite frankly, that's why we're all here. We're not in here to do anything but try to win games. And if we're not winning games, is there something else that matters? And look, I mean, you have to be patient enough to see what develops and how it develops, to give things enough time. And that was, you're saying, did you give it too much time? Other person just asked, did you give it enough time? I think it's a balancing act, and I try to, balance it both ways.
Would you do a 7-year contract again?
This article from Forbes right here says that this new online
talk about contracts, one way or another. But listen, it's probably in a lot of things in this game, it probably might make more sense to be more conforming in some ways. On the other hand, look, it's about taking chances and taking risks sometimes in life. Sometimes things work out. Sometimes you learn from those risks. So if you don't take chances, don't take risks, you don't win usually. Okay. So I'm not gonna, any individual risk we take in the field, depending if it's smart risks and not smart risks. So, and you learn. So look, I mean, just in general, and I'll say this is, 4 years in this business, 2 years during COVID. I'm still learning, quite frankly. We had dinner with some owner. Their family's been in the business for 40 years. Okay. I'm going to be humble enough to say that it's a big difference from being in a seat of a fan or being up here, and you're trying to balance. You just gave the question about patience both ways. You try to balance that and try to learn from your mistakes. And hopefully we're smart enough to do that.
All right, I'm done with that. Anyways, so let me just give my thoughts on the whole, basically my thoughts of firing Matt Rhule. I basically had a feeling that that this was going to happen at some point. What year was it going to happen? And I knew by the time that this year, we started out once we started out 0-2, I said, Matt Rhule's not going to make it past week 5, week 6. All right. And a year ago, and I've said it over and over again, let it get to year 3. And because of previous rebuilds that Matt Rhule has been in, obviously in college, which was where he always turned things around. With that being said, I think that obviously it made sense to fire him. And, after going 1-4 start, this season, I mean, it just made all the sense in the world to make the move now. Things weren't improving, and especially in some instances, I felt like they were actually regressing, in my opinion. I hate it for Matt Rhule. I actually like the guy. I was hoping he would truly win here. And I think he's a class act of a guy, but at the end of the day, the results just didn't fit into our standards. So, it is what it is. It was just time. I get that there was patience by the ownership in the front office, but it was just time. I mean, Rhule overall record with us was 11-27. There was no improvement during his 3 years. First season he comes off of the first season 5-11, and that was the best that Rhule could do. It definitely seemed like the locker room had his back, but the on-field production was absolutely god-awful. And I think Tepper had no choice at this point but to let Rhule go and move into a different direction. And what happens next is whoever he hires next this is going to historically change the franchise. And the fans' interest is at an all-time low for this organization. We're a laughing stock. And it's time to turn around with it. You better get an all-star hire. That's all I got to say, David Tepper. You better get a guy that is the freaking man. I'm talking about who's got balls of freaking steel. You better hire somebody who's an all-star. That's all I got to say. It's not going to fix any. Yeah, it's not going to fix anything now. ICP. It's not going to fix anything now, but you can't just sit here and let this guy continue to coach and coach and coach. It's not getting us anywhere. You know what I mean? Not getting us anywhere. So you've got to go ahead and make the move. Go ahead and make the move now. Move on with it. Right? So I think, it was just time. It was just time to cut ties. David Tepper is going to have to eat that contract. It is what it is. Now Steve Wilkes is our interim head coach. And I'm looking forward to it. Now, yeah, exactly. We're going to be in a fire sale now. Like I said last night, I told y'all last night after the end of that game on that live stream yesterday, I told y'all that Matt Rhule will be fired and it's going to be fire sale time. And that's why I've been talking about the whole Christian McCaffrey trade. Probably there's probably some players that they're going to keep. I could see them. You're going to see them keep Jeremy Chin. You're going to see them keep, J.C. Horn, Dante Jackson. I think they'll trade C.J. Henderson. I think they're going to trade Robbie Anderson. I think they're going to trade. They'll keep Akeem Ekwonu. I think they'll trade. They might keep Derek Brown because Derek Brown right now is last time I looked at PPF or PFF, whatever it's called, I was looking at it today. He's ranked 11th for defensive tackles in the league. So they'll probably end up keeping Derek Brown. But I won't be surprised if they trade him either. That one's kind of like it could go either way, honestly. Now, they won't trade Icky. No. So they'll keep Icky. But these are the guys I think they're going to trade. I think they're going to probably trade off, like I said, they'll probably trade off C.J. Henderson, probably Shaq Thompson, probably Robbie Anderson, and probably Christian McCaffrey. I mean, those are probably my top 4 trades that they'll probably make. They probably could. If I'm missing anybody else, please let me know. But as of right now, I know those guys will be traded. They won't trade DJ Moore. They'll definitely trade CMC. They got to. His contract's too high. They're going to have to trade him. When it comes to a fire sale and you want to get that cap space open and you want to get the draft capital, you're going to have to trade CMC. Sorry. He's going to be one of the main people. I can tell you right now, he will be. Planet Jadarius, I hear you. I don't think they'll trade DJ Moore or CMC, but I promise you they will. They won't trade DJ Moore. I don't think that Moore will be gone, but I think CMC will be. Did you not see CMC yesterday? They were interviewing him in the locker room. That boy looked pissed as hell. He did not look like he wanted to be there. Buffalo Bills are already calling our phones right now for him anyways. And I know the 49ers are possibly going to be because of the relationship between Shanahan and the McCaffrey family. CMC will be gone. Oh, you said I do think they'll trade Moore or CMC. Oh, okay. Sorry, I read that wrong. My bad, Planet. Now, I don't think they'll trade Moore. I think they'll trade CMC for sure. But yeah. I mean, it is what it is. I knew it was coming. Yeah, those are mainly the guys that they probably won't trade. You're gonna keep some assets for sure. They might trade Dante Jackson. I don't know. That's a contract that that they're gonna probably have that they might have to eat a little bit, but it is what it is. So where do I want to start here? Well, let's first things first. All right. That, as they fired Matt Rhule, they fired Phil Snow. Now we know that Snow was hired by Matt Rhule, and he's been attached to the hip to Matt Rhule for years. Ever since I think Rhule became head coach at Temple back in 2013. And he was hired to be Phil Snow's defensive coordinator then, and that was basically the beginning. Followed him to Temple, and then followed him to Baylor and Carolina, and so the Rhule firing was only a matter of time. I mean, the defense, as it stands, I mean, Carolina defense sits at 22nd in the league in points allowed, which is 22.4 after they're finishing the 20th in 2021 and 18th in 2020. I mean, the defense has been below average in points allowed all 3 years, but a non-existent offense on the other side never really helped Phil Snow's defense. But Steve Wilkes has taken over as the interim head coach. I think it would make sense that he plans on calling the plays on defense as well. Wilkes has served mostly as a secondary coach, but he has been a defensive coordinator multiple times in his career as well. And with Wilkes calling plays and Snow gone, I think if the trend continues, we'll see what happens. But I think Steve Wilkes, do a good job. So, I was looking into Steve Wilkes a little bit, getting to know him. Let's see what Stephen Lilly said here. As much as I like Horn, that had two shots. Herbert in the last chance was Mac Jones. There isn't a defense in the championships league that once was. The league favors quarterbacks so much. Yep. Phil Snow don't need to go. Well, he's already fired. He is gone. Your defense is going to be banged up, trying to get you there if you don't lose the team first, as we see. Pantherology. Mind if I get a word in or two? Mind if I get a word or two in? I mean, you can comment. I don't know what you mean by that. So I'm not inviting you on the stream if that's what you're asking, but you can definitely get your word in. Go ahead and type up whatever you feel like commenting. Phil Snow will be a good asset elsewhere. He's going to go to Matt. We'll go wherever Matt Rhule is. So Phil is the only reason Rhule stayed another year. If it isn't worth it at this point, a new regiment will cut ties. Yep. Are we tanking? It looks like to me. Probably a possibility. It's probably going to be tanking for CJ Stroud at this point. Who knows? Unless like Steve Wilkes is like an absolute god and just like turns this whole team around and they just start playing offense, defensive, good ball. This is going to be a Miami tank, but just not as much. Yeah, possibility. I mean, I can see that, and I wouldn't be mad about that because Miami, they tanked, and it took so many years for them to actually get back to where they are now. So yeah, but the problem is he had bad cards over there with the Cardinals, man. The Cardinals gave him they gave him a bad deal over there. Not saying Steve Wilkes is going to turn it around, but in my opinion, about time the Panthers got rid of Rhule. Hiring him was equal to letting a fox in the hen house. Don't disagree. James Aaron, says, yeah, I'm glad that Rhule left. I don't fully blame it on him, but we obviously need a change. I mean, come on. We needed a change once we went 0-2. But I knew by week 5, week 6, I predicted it. He was going to be gone. So, anyways, so let's get to know Steve Wilkes. Now that we know that since the Matt Rhule is officially over, and that 30-game stint where the team won just 11 games by poor quarterback play, and the inability to adapt to challenges and overall lack of identity week in and week out for a young team, who are desperate in need of one. He's a fine college coach, man. Like Matt Rhule's a fine college coach, and he's best suited for developing a program of students, not an NFL. The NFL is a whole different beast, though. The Panthers are a team oozing to win games, and we want performances that lead to much more. Especially with a talented roster that we have. And I think Carolina has a very talented roster if we look at it overall. While the long-term answer at head coach is a question, which won't be answered for many months, but the Panthers, we still have 12 games to go. We have 12 games to play, and we can't allow this time to waste any much longer. And now we've got Steve Wilkes, which is a familiar name to many Panthers fans, as this is not his first stint with the team. He was on Ron Rivera's defensive staff back in 2012 through 18. He is very familiar with the Panthers organization, as well as the Carolinas. He went to West Charlotte High School, graduated, played college ball at Appalachian State. He was a defensive back in 1987-91. He also played for the Charlotte Rage of the AFL during the 1993 season. His first coaching job was at Johnson C. Smith in Charlotte. He was a defensive coordinator there from 1995 through 96. He's worked his way through different defensive coaching jobs up in the college ranks. Notably, he was the defensive backs coach at Appalachian State back in 2001, and then Notre Dame in 2004. And then his first time coaching in the NFL came back in 2006 with the Chicago Bears. He was and then the defensive coordinator was Ron Rivera. He hired him as the defensive backs coach, and then Wilkes followed Ron Rivera to San Diego, and then eventually Carolina as a mainstay over the Panthers coaching staff for years. And then once in Carolina, Wilkes truly began to make a name for himself, and the Panthers were a defensive powerhouse for much of Wilkes' time in Carolina. He was a large reason because of that. He was able to take advantage of the talent that we had and develop most of them with players that were like former fifth-round pick, like Josh Norman, had him performing at all pro levels, and then at the peak of everything was back in 2015 when Wilkes had been promoted to assistant head coach. By this time, helped guide the defense to a league in takeaways, including a league leading in 24 interceptions and our route to that Super Bowl appearance. And then after Sean McDermott left to become the head coach over at the Buffalo Bills, we all know Wilkes became a hot commodity around the league. Quickly, he served as defensive coordinator. So, I mean, guy's resume speaks pretty well. I mean, he understands the ins and outs of the defensive game, which led him to interviewing for multiple head coaching positions. And he got his ultimate, he got over at the Arizona Cardinals, and he only got one season over there at the Arizona, and they went 3-13. With a Cardinal squad which was basically decimated. They had nobody on that team, and it was his first head coaching attempt in the NFL. And did it go how he'd like? No, but he's found his footing. He has served as the defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns and for the University of Missouri before he returned back to Carolina this season as a defensive passing game coordinator and secondary coach. And we know Wilkes is walking into a tough spot with this team that is set to play the majority of of its remaining games on the road with one of the toughest schedules in the league, in my opinion, as well as Baker Mayfield, our starting quarterback, which doesn't really matter to me at this point that he's going to miss multiple weeks, but the hometown guy is getting a chance, and he seems up for the task. I don't think he's going to be asked to turn this team into a playoff team overnight, but rather to keep things kind of steady and allow the necessary evaluations for the future. Things aren't going to get any easier for us being 1-4. And if anything, it will be a lot harder. And within the weight of a former coach lifted off the shoulders, I think this team under Wilkes should be able to go out and play some football without really any expectations. So that's just my opinion. Now, I'd like to also talk about what we can expect for Matt Rhule now. All right. I think Matt Rhule will probably end up going. So after going basically 3-16 in your last 19 games as an NFL head coach, the guy's going to go back over to the college level, right? There's a lot of teams looking to rebuild their programs over in the college. Nebraska's one. The Cornhuskers, they fired their for their program. What was his name? Frost. Was it Frost that was that there? Arizona State is looking for another coach because they fired Herm Edwards. Colorado, Georgia Tech, Wisconsin are also some of the major programs that parted ways with their coaches. Auburn could be in potential going after him. So, yeah, I don't see him staying in the NFL unless he's like maybe an assistant O-line coach like he was over at over at the Giants back in 2012. I mean, unless that's something he does, but I think he'll take a college job. As we all know, though, coming on here, also Baker Mayfield is expected to miss time with that high ankle sprain. Probably going to be about, I'm going to guess, probably about the same amount of time as amount of time as Sam Darnold has been out. So, yeah. I think that's probably about the timeline there. Probably about 4 to 6 weeks. But he's going to get a second opinion. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. So we'll see. But yeah. So we all know he's out for a while, and I don't know if that's a good thing or if that's a bad thing. Some of y'all may feel that it's a good thing. Some of y'all may feel like it's a bad thing, right? I don't know. Wills was brought in to keep that defense intact for a regime change. Players like him will play through the change. They have a lot of draft picks invested in that team. I mean, I hope Wilkes can keep this team together. My biggest fear is Wilkes leads this team to 8 to 9 wins. We lose out on our drafting our future franchise QB. Could be a possibility, man. Who knows? We haven't seen what Matt Corral could do. Who knows? Maybe Matt Corral could be our franchise guy. There's so many different scenarios when it comes to these kind of situations. It really does. These situations always are just you never know. You just don't know. You really don't. Yeah, I mean that could be a possibility, but I don't see that happening. I still see Carolina being a top 5, top 3 pick at this point. So hypothetically speaking, we draft CJ Stroud. What happened to PJ Walker? What happened to PJ Walker and Sam Darnold? They walked. We paid Sam out at that point. Sam's contract's up at the end of the year. He got his $18 million. He's gone. PJ Walker, either we keep him and keep him at a minimum just to have an extra backup, and you got CJ Stroud, Matt Corral, and PJ Walker. That's probably a scenario if that happens, if we are able to draft CJ Stroud or whoever if we do go after, if we get a quarterback in the draft. But yeah, I'd also like to go over some guys I think that we could hire. Now, looking ahead, there's a couple of candidates in mind for me. Sean Payton's one. I believe this saying is so true, man. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's clearly some sparks here. There has been rumors as Sean Payton has been rumored as David Tepper's favorite head coach, next head coach, dating back to the 2022 offseason when Matt Rhule's job status was already in question. And those rumors are already resurfacing. Now, Payton is clearly a successful head coach in this league. As we all know, he's won a Super Bowl. He's led the New Orleans with a huge winning record. He's been 152-89 under his watch. However, obviously the Payton rumors don't come without some questioning right now. The Panthers would need to, first off, compensate New Orleans because Payton is still under contract with that team, even though he's technically retired. And I wonder if the New Orleans would be willing to deal with their former head coach within the division. So if they do, that price is going to be pretty steep. And Carolina is already limited on draft assets in the 2023 draft. So one has to wonder if they'll shell out anything for Payton. And then on top of that, the bounty scandal from the 2009-2011 is a cloud over Payton's head. And he was suspended the whole entire 2012 season. And some Panthers fans certainly would question the morality of hiring a coach with that kind of background. Even though Carolina threw everything about morality out the window when we were going after Deshaun Watson this summer. Another name that's been tossed around is Dan Quinn. Another name that's been tossed around is Dan Quinn, right? He is the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. We know him when he was the head coach over at the Atlanta Falcons. He's been dialing up for one of the best units in all of football right now over there at Dallas. The Cowboys are ranked 6th in the defense. And they're currently 4-1 with four of those wins coming straight from Cooper Rush under center. And then on top of that, Dallas is one of 2 defenses in the league to not allow an opponent to score more than 20 points this year. So the man can coach some defense, right? He was the play caller for the Legion of Boom for the Seattle Seahawks. And he led the Falcons to that Super Bowl back in 2016 as their head coach. Now, we all know that he left a nice taste in those Falcons' mouth at the end of his year, time there. And a large number of Panthers fans would probably roll their eyes if we hired him. And probably not a lot of people want him. But it kind of does make some sense, right? Now, Carolina has a ton of talent on defense. Quinn has coached in the NFL before, and he has significantly, I think, rehabilitated, basically got himself, his image looking a lot better, especially being the defensive play caller in Dallas the past few years. So now we all know Steve Wilkes. We've already talked about him, so I'm not going to say any more about him. So these are guys that are I would probably like the three I just named are probably guys that maybe it could be like they're just well-known guys. Now, I would say these coaches that I'm going to name off here are guys that are kind of just up and coming or getting their name out there. They're starting to move up in the coaching ranks, I guess you could say. They're just names. They're names that are just getting thrown out there and floated around, right? And with the first guy I'm going to talk about is DeMeco Ryans. Now, DeMeco Ryans, he is the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. And they fly around all the whole field and play some entertaining football, as we saw on Sunday. And he took over Robert Saleh's job when Robert Saleh went to the Jets. And the defense hasn't skipped a beat. The 49ers are seventh on defense in the league. But now that was back in 2021. Now they're currently, after 5 weeks, ranked the best defense in the league. San Francisco is an incredibly talented team. I think Ryan has shown a lot of hope that he could be or a lot of God, I can't even think right now with my vocabulary here. I'm trying to think of a good word to say here. He's just a good prospect. Let's just say that he's showing a lot of balls with the way he plays and the way he coaches and the players love him. And I think he's someone who could step in the locker room and build a winning culture. I think that we could put him as one of the top guys on the list to be one of the next head coaches, honestly, for the Carolina Panthers. And I'm hoping that maybe Tepper feels the same way, but who knows? Another one is Shane Steichen, who is the offensive coordinator for the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles. And it's clear why his name is buzzing around as a head coaching candidate. In their 5 wins, the Eagles offense has been firing on all cylinders. And he's got Jalen Hurts playing at an MVP level. The Eagles offense is currently 6th in the league for estimated points added per play. Steichen he does have a very talented offensive line. I will say that. But he's got and one of the best skill position groups in the league. He's drawn up an excellent offense that plays to Jalen Hurts' strength and is putting him in the best position, I think, to succeed. So the Eagles fans would probably hate us if we took him. Eagles fans rightfully came into this season. One of Hurts would be their guy long term, and he has proven early on that the answer to that question is yes, I think. And I think some of that credit has to go to Steichen and the schemes that he's running in Philadelphia. And I think Carolina needs an offensive-minded guy in there, and because we're currently ranked 24th in the league for points per game. So that's not good. And then I would say Ken Dorsey. We are all too familiar with him. He was the Panthers quarterbacks coach back in 2013, 2017 during Cam's prime years. He's now the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. He was serving as the quarterback coach there for 3 years, and then he helped transform Josh Allen. As we all know who that guy is, who was a top 10 draft pick. He's MVP caliber, first team All-Pro quarterback in just a few years. Now as the offensive coordinator, Dorsey has the Buffalo Bills offense purring like a rebuilt car. Especially with the fact that the departure of Brian Dable, who has transformed the Giants offense overnight. So Seems like the Carolina Buffalo pipeline has a traditional to go from the south to the north, but I'd like to see if we could flip it the other way one time. And have Dorsey come back and try to lead this franchise into the next era. And with Carolina undoubtedly having a high draft pick, I throw Dorsey the keys and let him choose the quarterback that can run the team for the next decade. So, anyways, I'm going to hop off here. That's all I got to say. Appreciate everybody coming to join the live stream. And as always, keep pounding.